So, Stargirl is back with Season 3, Episode 5, titled The Thief, after a little bit of a break for a week, but there are quite a few developments in this episode. More or less, I just want to dive straight into this breakdown and recap of this episode. If you have any theories of your own, definitely let me know down in the comments below, because after all, this is a murder mystery themed season, so I'll be reading every single one of your comments. And if you like news, reviews, and breakdowns just like this, do consider subscribing to the channel, because this is the place for that. So what I found interesting about this episode, and it seems that they do this every now and again, we get a 5 days ago. And here we see Cindy, and I'm wondering if this has convinced anyone, if she did kill the gambler out of her somewhat hulking out Dragon Queen mode, because that's something we've learned recently, is that Cindy is trying to prevent whatever this natural evolution is of hers, of which you can put down to her father Dragonking, upon likely experimenting on her when she was younger to manifest some kind of lizard mutation just like him. And in this moment, it seems that it started off with the blade out her shiv, inferring that she killed the gambler, which would kind of lead up to the theories of how the JSA have found out thus far that the puncture wound to the heart or whatever isn't like from a bullet, it's not even necessarily a blade, it's more from like a monstery claw kind of thing, which would line up to what we just saw with Shiv. But is it really going to be as simple as that? I really don't know, unless we have Cindy Hulk out in a Dragon Queen mode, like going full lizard scale, and then she can revert back to her Cindy Berman look. So that would make sense for how whoever was behind Starman and almost killed him, she could go into a monster noise, you know, really tall and evil or whatever, and then back to Cindy form. But I just think this is too obvious, and that's what they want us to think. Even though Cindy had a shiv blade out then, I don't know, man. I feel like it still isn't her who created that puncture wound that killed the gambler. We see her initially find the laptop. I don't think she hit it so well, because I swear the JSA from this moment onwards were looking for the laptop, and it was in pretty plain sight. Then we cut to a scene of Cameron walking Courtney back to her house. They have a bit of a romantic moment again, and obviously this episode pushes that forward quite a bit. It does feel as though what Cindy said later does foreshadow where things may very well end up going. Once Icicle Jr. finds out what happened to his father, regardless of the truth, like if you laid it out to him, your father tried doing this was his grand plan, you see how many people were going to die, he tried killing me, Cameron still might not listen to that, especially after his father was the only parent he had left after losing his mother as a little kid. So despite this tension, and Courtney kind of being the one on the right, not seeing as black and white as Yolanda and Rick do, we have in the promo for the next episode saying he's a threat, and she's just like, no, he's not. And clearly this episode, they call him a freak, and they don't approve of her hanging out with him. But the irony is, despite Courtney being right on the bottom line, it could still end up going the way Rick and Yolanda think. Even though Cameron is a good guy deep down at heart, once he learns the truth, he could very well end up being that threat like the other JSA members think, which would just kind of make Courtney seem like she was in the wrong all along, but she kind of isn't. So I hope that doesn't knock off her optimistic view of people, but it does feel like that is a bit of an inevitability. But I hope there is a little bit more to it, because right now it just kind of seems like a simple road for Icicle Jr. to go down. But perhaps even if it goes down that predictable road, it could still be quite an entertaining one to watch throughout the episodes. Next up, we have Rick, Yolanda, and Starman go down to the ISA meeting room, and they've never been there before. This is where I theorized a couple of weeks ago. I wondered if Jakeem and Mike went down there because they said they wanted to check out the tunnels, but nothing really came out of that since they couldn't find a key in the massive pile of keys that we had the Thunderbolt conjure up. But I was wondering, because of the promo, seeing Sylvester go absolutely mad, what could that be over? He says they need to pay, and I thought obviously Mike and Jakeem wouldn't be dead, but maybe they were wounded after going down there to try and prove themselves. But it turned out that Sylvester just flipped over nothing. He just looked at the painting, was like, they're mocking me, and then lost his shit. Sylvester's anger is definitely something they're really putting in our faces this season, and you have to think it's a bit of a byproduct of maybe this cosmic energy or whatever bringing him back, as Charles McNider did suggest that the staff did that, him being connected to his energy, healing him over like 10 years or whatever. But it could be something as simple as he's just not perfect, and he's just that angry, and he needs to kind of improve himself, set an example. He didn't plan on kind of having this parent role with the JSA kids, but I kind of hope that this anger is due to something larger that we just haven't had revealed yet. I would love to know your thoughts on that. Do you think it is just showing the flaws of Sylvester, trying to be better, or do you think it's that storyline, of which which they're doing anyway, but also there is an underlying reason to his anger that is causing these outbursts. I almost forgot as well, just before this, we had Cindy find out, oh crap, they're in the tunnel, so I got to get out of here. And she did actually get access to the gambler's laptop to find out the Dr. Ito lab locations, of which Starman was happening to go to the nearest one anyway. I was thinking, why didn't you just use the password cracker in the first place? I only mention that because Cindy has had this for multiple episodes. For multiple episodes, she's been trying to guess the password, getting a bit pissed off, like, oh, access denied. And then only now she's using it. And so we have Sylvester talking about going to Dragonking's hidden labs, invites Courtney, and Pat's a bit suspicious of her this episode because she seems very distracted. Later on in a lunch date scene with Barbara and Pat, she can tell that Courtney has a crush. But either way, in this moment, she seems to be kind of more than okay with letting Sylvester take the reins of the JSA while she tries to help Cameron, which is true to both natures of Courtney's personality. Not only does she have a crush on him, so she's distracted, but she does want to help him. So she's completely distracted right now, but this is when we have Starman go down to the lab, and we got a little bit of exploration there. Actually, I need to wind back a bit. We did get him to call Beth. I did wonder why he didn't choose the cosmic ray on the hatch. I'm sure it could have pulled that off. That thing is pretty powerful, and we had Beth help out in the middle of a test, but she was freaking out because the test results were being given to her. I felt like she could have just taken the goggles off as soon as they started displaying, but she kept looking at them like, oh god, like, oh, answers. I don't want to see this, but yeah. But either way, we have Sylvester go down there. There's like a lizardy kind of rat-looking thing, obviously due to Dragonking's experiments. But yeah, I feel like other than a bit of creepiness and communication between Cosmo and Sylvester, we didn't really, I thought we were going to continue the scene when Starman walks around the corner, but we didn't. That was basically it until we saw Cindy go down there later. This is where we got that lunchtime scene between Courtney and the others. Cameron comes over, and this is where, things start to cause a little bit of unrest within the JSA. There's always been a bit of tension there because, we have Beth, who is usually more supportive of Courtney, but Rick is very impulsive, and to be honest, so is Yolanda. Normally Rick is at the peak of impulsiveness, but here we have Cameron come over, and Rick really is just really rude. Sometimes I felt like it was justified in prior seasons, but here he is just a bit of a jerk to Cameron. Like, Cameron doesn't deserve it just because of who his father is. They say things like, don't tell me you're hanging out with that creep. Courtney is very defensive here, and to be honest, I'm completely on Courtney's side because no matter what, I feel like I know they're kids, which is why these JSA members like Rick and Yolanda have flaws, and sometimes their gut is right. For example, Yolanda, even though she feels like she stumbled across something suspicious like the laptop later on, as we the audience know, it's not exactly what she thinks, but still, Cindy is proving Yolanda right in the sense that she is hiding something. But I do largely think that they are way too judgy. This ultimately leads her to walk away. As I said, if you've seen the promo for the next episode, more scenes are addressed between the JSA and Cameron, brought up to Courtney, and it just causes more arguments. And it looks like it might cause a bit of a fracture, which I do wonder if, with the way they're kind of setting Starman up to temporarily take over every now and again, I wonder if there's going to be a little mini story arc where Courtney does kind of quit temporarily, only temporarily, and Sylvester will take the reins. But inevitably and predictably, she'll come back and things will be fixed there before the end of the season, la-di-da-da. Could be completely wrong about that, but let me know where you think that's got to go, other than the obvious predictable route of Courtney being right about Cameron being a good guy, but unfortunately, it could turn out that Yolanda and Rick are right, especially in that near ending scene where we have Courtney go to Cameron, show him that like little ice hotel, and he creates a little model of it, going back to how she thinks he could create beautiful things with his powers. And then we have the freaking grandparents just like, oh god, he's hanging out with a JSA member, we need to sort this out. So I think that could spur on the grandparents to fill him in, saying, yeah, Courtney, yeah, there's a lot of things you don't know that we haven't told you. JSA, how about we fill you in? Meanwhile, with the JSA and Sylvester, once again, just them and Sylvester at the pit stop, meaning that theory could be true. Again, not saying it is, just would love your expanded thoughts on Courtney maybe taking a bit of a sabbatical. He says, learn from my mistakes. It's good to see that Starman is trying to improve. We get a little bit of a reference to Mary, Sylvester's sister, of whom was Henry's mother and who died. We also got other references this episode to Dr. Fate, Dr. Fate's arch enemy. Also Crimson Avenger, of when Sylvester was talking about scouting Dr. Ito's labs back in the day with him, who was a part of the Seven Soldiers of Victory, going way back. I love Stargirl references. Would be cool to get more JSA files. For example, that time we saw Clifford DeVoe, the Thinker, in one of the mugshots for the JSA files. It'd be cool to get more little Easter eggs like that from Golden Age stuff. But the next thing to talk about is, of course, Rick and Hourman. Sylvester seems to kind of know nothing about this, but the very thing that Rick needs to sort out at the same time, which is the limiter on the hourglass, which was put in for a reason, to limit it to just 1 hour a day. And Rick's just like, wait, you're telling me if you remove the limiter, I could be super strong basically for 24 hours a day? But he does warn him that your dad put that there for a reason. But Rick takes it out, puts it back together. He tries it out, and the power completely washes over him. Now, that was quite a cool effect. I'm sure we're going to see this be used, but obviously the little warning there from Sylvester about the limiter being there for a reason. Like, don't you think Hourman would go beyond 1 hour if there wasn't a good reason? So I don't know if this is going to exacerbate Rick's impulsiveness, or there's going to be any side effects. Could it be like a roid rage maybe? We're going to have to wait and see, but yeah, I'm definitely intrigued about this one. And then lastly, we cut to Cindy going to that same lab as we very briefly spoke about earlier, searching for the answers. Doesn't really find anything as of now. Then at the same time, we have Yolanda looking for stuff in Cindy's house, and she finds the gambler's laptop, saying that she's going to kick her ass. So we're going to get a much awaited, I guess you could say, considering how much angst there's been between these two characters, battle between them. And I think it was even featured perhaps in one of the Stargirl trailers with Yolanda waiting for Cindy to come back. It's a bit of a weird thing for me. I really like Yolanda, but at the same time, I feel like she's a bit irritating this season. But then again, she's just going to be kind of proven right finding the laptop, even though Cindy's doing it for a completely different reason, to try and protect herself. And you can't also necessarily blame her for keeping it to herself because of the way people like Yolanda act. She'll think that if Cindy was transparent saying, hey, I'm actually trying to sort this out, they all just think that she's a threat and that she's going to become just like her father. So there is interesting stuff going on here. And that's more or less this episode's events. I feel like they touched on many different interesting plot points. It's foreshadowed some very intriguing things to come. For example, the hourglass. What is really going to happen with Cindy, especially with that opening scene with the Shiv. Definitely let me know your theories in the comments down below with regards to that. And then again, you have to factor in Mr. Bones. There was no Mr. Bones this episode. And just let me know your thoughts as well with what you think could happen with Courtney, Cameron, and the tension that could fracture temporarily, of course, the JSA in a couple of episodes to come, probably starting next episode. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. Stargirl is, I would say, for these first 5 episodes, pretty much keeping a consistency of quality with its entertainment. I think around about now, or, you know, in the next couple of episodes, if we don't get some more, I would say, big chunks of, okay, you know, what's going on with Mr. Bones, I kind of want to peel that curtain back a little bit, then that would have me feeling that is left to be desired. But I do think things like that are coming. Same with Jenny's Green Lantern. I think the momentum is just slowly kind of building up each episode, and hopefully it's just going to reach quite a peak this season that would have been well deserved with how the pacing has been going these 5 episodes so far. So ultimately, let me know what you guys think of Stargirl Season 3, Episode 5, The Thief. Please consider liking this video, especially if you got this far. I know you're probably hearing me say this right now and you might forget to do it, but it would really help me out if you do. Also, check out my past couple of videos recently. I did a news roundup video, which I think a lot of you would be interested in. But other than that, guys, gonna love you and leave you. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see all of you fellow people of Blue Valley, I guess, in the next video. Goodbye.